And we're back. If you haven't watched part 1, go watch it. In this episode, we're going to talk about recruiting. We're going to talk about whether you can make money just selling the products, but whether MLMers are business owners or not. Why the MLM structure seems to be an attractive business model. Not attractive in the sense that it is good, but it is a business model that a lot of companies choose to adopt nowadays. And we're also going to talk about why people still join MLMs. Nobody asked me, but let's talk about it. And this is probably not the best way to start the video because I have a feeling that I may lose some of you and you might not like what I say. But it's something that everybody knows. Unfortunately, the law allows MLMs to incorporate recruiting into their business practices. What the law prohibits is compensation based on recruiting. In other words, there's a difference between getting compensation for recruiting someone that is prohibited, and that is a characteristic of a pyramid scheme, and getting compensation from the sales made by the people you recruit. That is generally permitted in an MLM with a few exceptions. And if this sounds like an almost indistinguishable difference, it's because it is. When promoting their MLMs, MLMers will make it a point to talk about how their MLM does not require recruiting so that the people they recruit don't have to feel pressure about recruiting. The anti-MLM community will point out that this is not consistent with the compensation plans out there that seem to require participants to have people under them in order to be able to rank up to different levels. And here's the catch. You may already know this. The MLM should not require a participant to recruit anybody in order for the participant to qualify for compensation in that very first rank. If the MLM does not require the participant to recruit in that first rank, then the point stands. You really don't need to recruit anybody. This is the technicality, and it's different from what we discussed last time, right? We talked about the promises that MLMers make when they're trying to recruit other people and how they say you can make money and you don't have to recruit. So both of these statements are accurate in isolation, but not when they're put together, because both of these are essentially mutually exclusive. You can make money. In order for you to make money that is worth the time, you need to recruit. You can also avoid recruiting, but then you'll just make whatever commissions you make from the sales of the products. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to defend the MLM by saying this. What I'm trying to do is clarify a couple of points so the focus can be where I think it matters more. And I know this is frustrating to a lot of people, but the fact is there are legal ways for MLMs to incorporate recruiting within their practices. And getting mad about it is a moot point. It's useless. Is it fair? No, but it's legal. And until that changes, if you truly want to help people avoid getting tricked into joining an MLM or losing money, the focus needs to be in other areas of the MLM, such as disseminating important information like the compensation plans and the income disclosures, and reporting the activities of their members whenever these are in violation of the terms and conditions of the MLM, which is where we all can come in. Can you make money just selling products? It is definitely possible. Will it be a lot of money? Doubtful. Will the ROI be worth the time you put in? Highly unlikely. Will you have to resort to recruiting to actually make money? Probably. Am I asking myself questions in this format to prove a point and also use a thesaurus? Absolutely. Now, I'm not going to delve too much into the morality of joining an MLM, even if it's only to sell products, when you know that some of the participants are engaging in shady practices. Because I think everybody should have a moral compass. And if you don't have one already that tells you why some of these practices are wrong, nothing I say here will change that. Do I personally think that some of these practices toe the line between being assertive and being predatory? Yes. Do I think it's despicable to use some things like the loss of a loved one, your children, or illnesses to push your product? Yes. Am I doing this whole question and answer thing again? Also yes. It is technically possible to make money just selling the products, but it will be very hard to do. And even if you do, it is unlikely it will be a lot of money unless you move a lot of product. And the reason is simple. You do not own nor have control of the manufacturing process or the pricing of your product. So the profit margin from only selling the products is really thin. What you will pay for the product when you buy from the MLM will most likely already include the cost of manufacturing, the profit that the MLM wants to make, because it is not in the business of losing money. Its members may lose money, but the MLM is not going to lose money. And the margin that is built in and that will go to the people that recruited you. your upline. When you have all these intermediaries along the way, it's easy to see that this results in one of two outcomes. You either get a product that is mediocre in quality, or you get a product that is of good quality or even great quality, but it will need to be way overpriced, and neither option is great. Even if you get past the price, all of these things have to go right. People have to not be opposed to buying from MLMs. People have to like the product and like it enough to pay whatever price you're charging. You have to sell quite a bit because of the small profit margins that you have. And you need to be under an upline who doesn't care that you don't want to recruit and you just want to sell products at your leisure. But because a lot of uplines obviously have people under them, and they depend on your volume of sales and the people under you, it'll be hard to find someone like that. So all of these things have to go right. And in any business venture, you need things to go right. You need a little bit of luck. But in other types of businesses, there are a lot more factors that you can have a say in or control, such as who you source your product from, what type of materials you use, the inventory, and the pricing. So the answer to the question, can you make money just selling products, is yes, you can. Will you make money? That is a different question. And the track record is not great. Will you make a lot of money? That's yet another question. And the track record for that is even worse. There's a big debate about whether MLMers are business owners or not. People in the anti-MLM community say that MLMers are not business owners. I disagree. Let me tell you why. First off, nowadays, anybody can call themselves a CEO. For you to operate a business as a sole proprietor or even a general partnership, you don't have to draft anything. You don't even have to file anything with the Secretary of State. So you don't need to incorporate in any way for you to have a business. In the context of what MLMers call themselves, labels are meaningless. But aside from that point, there are a couple of arguments that are often discussed. One, MLMers are not business owners because they are contractors or independent contractors. And that's true. MLMers are independent contractors, but independent contractors are almost always business owners. What the MLM is trying to do here is make a distinction between its employees and its independent contractors. For example, if we have a company that sells popsicles and it wants to have a supplier for wooden sticks, in the contract between the two companies, there will be something that says that the wooden stick supplier is an independent contractor and not an agent or an employee of the popsicle manufacturer. But this doesn't make the wooden stick supplier any less of a business owner. The other point that is also mentioned is that MLMers do not own a piece of the MLM and they just sell its products. Now, for whatever's worth, I have personally never heard an MLM participant say that they own a piece of Arbonne or Monate or any other MLM. I've only heard them say you are a business owner or you have a business. As with the previous point, the fact that an MLMer is an independent contractor selling someone else's products does not make the MLMer any less of a business owner. Tons of retailers sell other companies' products without owning a piece of the manufacturing company. That is what retailers and resellers are. For example, Walmart. The fact that Walmart sells iPads does not mean that Walmart owns a piece of Apple. Walmart doesn't need to own a piece of Apple or any other company in order for Walmart to sell their products. The fact that it is selling other people's products does not make it any less of a business. Now, why am I mentioning this? It sounds like I'm arguing against anti-MLM points. I only mention this because I think the anti-MLM movement should not waste time attacking claims that MLMers are business owners. In my opinion, the better point to make is how the business they own sucks. For many reasons, but to name a few, they don't get to do any bargaining when it comes to contracting with the MLM the way other independent contractors would be able to. So the MLM gets to have its cake and eat it too. Not only does the MLM get to control what the MLMers can and cannot do without calling them employees, but also it gets to put distance between itself and the MLMer because they are independent contractors. So if anything goes wrong, the MLM just drops the MLMer and moves on. So MLMers get the shortest end of any stick when it comes to business ownership because they don't get to have a lot of the benefits that other business owners would have. Again, aside from bargaining in their contracts, they don't get to have ownership of the manufacturing process or have any say in what products are made or how they're made. They don't get to decide freely if they want to sell their business or to whom they want to sell it to. They don't have any control in the pricing of their product. And unless they set up an LLC and have that LLC be the member of the MLMer doesn't have protection from liability for selling the products. And that is why I think the focus needs to change. You can call yourself a business owner. Doesn't make your business great. MLMers choose to own a business that gives them almost none of the benefits that other business owners would have in a business model that is skewed against 90+% of them. So technically, are MLMers business owners? Sure. owners of a shitty business, but business owners nonetheless. We're in the topic of business models. Let's talk about why the MLM structure seems to be an attractive business model for more companies nowadays. It seems like there are a lot more MLMs in operation now than there were in the past couple of decades. So why is it attractive for both the owners of the MLM and the members to choose the MLM structure? Well, to the owners, there's obviously the money component. You can make a lot of money, and it's a cheap way for you to market and sell your products. It is also easier for you to deal with independent contractors than it is to deal with employees. It is also cheaper because you don't have to pay benefits for the employees and you don't have to spend money recruiting salespeople. To the members, it's attractive because you have the potential to earn additional income, as hard as that may be, and you have flexible hours and flexible working conditions because, again, MLMers are independent contractors. And there are low costs to start, depending on which MLM you join and what starter kit you buy. Now, this is an oversimplification, but in the context of starting a business, you generally have three options. You keep doing what you're doing, whether that is you have a job, a 9-to-5, you have a part-time job, you have more than one job, you have no job, you're a student. Whatever it is you're doing, you keep doing that. That's one option. Option number two is you start a business in the conventional way, quote unquote. And I say this because nowadays there's plenty of different ways in which you can start a side business outside of the MLM context. And I'm grouping all those into the quote unquote conventional way. And option number three is you start a business in an MLM. Assuming you don't want to take option number one, because that would essentially be just not doing anything new, you have options 2 and 3. If you want to start a business in a conventional way, there are a lot of people who do not know where to even begin doing this. And even if you do know, you may encounter high barriers of entry in terms of cost, complexity, and time and effort that is required. In an MLM, on the flip side, people get sold the idea that you have a chance of owning a business, earning more money, and all the barriers of entry are significantly lower, except maybe for the time and effort barrier of entry, because you do need to put in a lot of time and effort if you want to make good money. Objectively speaking, if you want to get some side income or something part-time, you can do way better by going in a number of different directions outside of the MLM context where you would get more bang for your buck. So the evidence seems to show that joining an MLM is not a particularly wise decision. It is hard to make money, and it is more likely that you will lose money. With all the information that is readily available, the question still remains: why do people still join MLMs? I have a theory about why this happens, and I am curious to hear about what the anti-MLM community has to say about it. In psychology, there are these things called biases, and I'm sure people in the comments will correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not a psychologist. But two of these biases are the Dunning-Kruger effect and the over-optimism bias. The Dunning-Kruger effect is when you think that you are better at doing something than you really are, even if you've never done it before. The over-optimism bias is self-explanatory, but it is when you tend to be over-optimistic about the outcome of certain situations. In other words, despite all of the evidence, you still think that something will happen to you or will not happen depending on the situation. Now, optimism and positivity and having a good attitude are obviously good things, but when you take someone's tendency to be over-optimistic and you combine it with manipulative tactics, with promises of grandiose rewards, that just creates a perfect storm for people to be trapped in an MLM. And that's why these practices are considered predatory. And you don't have to suffer from over-optimism or the Dunning-Kruger effect to feel tempted by someone else's over-enthusiasm and often false promises to get you to join the MLM. And MLMers are able to sell the idea by appealing to people's emotions, to their ego, and telling them to take a chance on themselves. But taking a chance on yourself by joining an MLM, it's like taking a chance on yourself by playing the lottery. There are so many external factors out there that you have very little say in the outcome. But by selling you the idea, the dream, the emotion, some MLMers prey on people's vulnerabilities. Some people say that being in an MLM is like being in an abusive relationship. I personally don't love that comparison because I feel like it almost is an injustice to what people who have been in an abusive relationship have gone through. Maybe it is true that both situations begin with similar circumstances, with people lying to you about what you're getting into and telling you what you want to hear. But I feel like it's easier to avoid getting trapped in an MLM by following quite literally the MLMer's advice and doing your own research. MLMs have been around for decades, and I don't think they're gonna go away anytime soon. As long as there is that promise of something great and easy and fast, there will be people wanting to join MLMs and test their luck. Nowadays, information is readily available at a few keystrokes away. As my uncle told me, if you want to try it for yourself, go for it. So long as you're aware of what you're getting into and you set your expectations accordingly. To know what you're getting into, you need to be informed. And hopefully this video provided some value in that regard. If you do decide to join an MLM, well, that is your prerogative, and may the odds be ever in your favor. Just to be clear, the odds are literally not in your favor, but I do still wish you well. If you are still here, I hope you found this information helpful, and I thank you for joining me through this overview of MLMs, even though nobody asked me. But I do want to ask you, so let me know in a comment below if you support MLMs or you're completely against them, or you're somewhere in between, if you like their products, or if you've had a good or bad experience in an MLM or with an MLM. Again, if you have any questions or want to get in touch with me, my email is in the description of the video. Thanks again. See you next time. Okay, bye.